The explosive third installment of Corporate Empire's Blood and Billions plunges Victoria Clarion into federal custody after the gala explosion. With her company, Clarion Cloud, hemorrhaging value, she faces accusations of orchestrating an $800 million cryptocurrency breach. Corporate Empire's Blood and Billions Part 3, The Powder Keg. The morning after the gala explosion hit the financial markets like a tactical nuke. Clarion Cloud computing stock plummeted 14% in pre-market trading. The footage of Victoria Clarion being escorted from the Metropolitan Museum by NYPD detectives had gone viral. 18 million views in 6 hours. Every major outlet ran variations of the same headline. Crypto Queen arrested. Clarion Empire crumbles. From penthouse to prison. Alexander Hammond watched the coverage from his Century City office, a thin smile playing across his lips. His media empire, Hammond Media Networks, Digital Revolution, and 47 subsidiary outlets had orchestrated the perfect narrative. Victoria wasn't just arrested, she was destroyed. Beautiful work, he murmured to the monitors displaying real-time sentiment analysis. Public opinion had turned on a dime. Victoria Clarion, once the darling of Wall Street, was now a pariah. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Hammond, your son is here. He says it's urgent." Alexander's smile faded. "Send him in." Marcus Hammond burst through the door, his tuxedo from the night before disheveled, his eyes wild. At 28, Marcus was supposed to be the heir apparent to the Hammond Empire. Instead, he looked like a man coming apart at the seams. "You have to stop this," Marcus said without preamble. "Call off your dogs. Victoria had nothing to do with the hack." Alexander leaned back in his chair, studying his son with clinical detachment. "The evidence suggests otherwise. The evidence is manufactured." Marcus slammed his hands on the desk. "Dad, I know you hate the Clarions. I know you've been planning something like this for months, but Victoria is innocent. She was targeted. By whom? I don't know yet, but then this conversation is premature." Alexander stood, moving to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Los Angeles. The city sprawled beneath him, a kingdom of glass and ambition. "Marcus, you're allowing emotion to cloud your judgment. The Clarion girl is a competitor. More than that, she's vulnerable. In business, you don't rescue drowning competitors. You hold them underwater until the bubbles stop. She's not just a competitor to me." The admission hung in the air between them. Alexander turned slowly. "Excuse me?" Marcus met his father's gaze. "Victoria and I have been seeing each other for 6 months." The silence that followed was absolute. When Alexander finally spoke, his voice was soft, dangerous. "You've been fucking a Clarion."
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.
"I've been in love with one." Alexander's laugh was sharp, humorless. "Love, you sound like your mother." He said it like a curse. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The optics alone could destroy everything I've built. The tabloids will have a field day. Hammond Air beds rival crypto mogul. Our shareholders will think you've been compromised, that you've been feeding her information. I would never. It doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. It matters what people believe." Alexander's composure cracked just for a moment. "Get out of my sight. And if you contact that woman, if you so much as send her a text message, I will cut you off without a cent. Are we clear?" Marcus's jaw tightened. Crystal. He turned and walked out, leaving his father alone with his victory and its complications. 3,000 miles away, in a federal holding facility in Lower Manhattan, Victoria Clarion sat in an interrogation room, wearing an orange jumpsuit that cost less than the coffee she usually drank. The FBI agents across from her had been tag-teaming for 4 hours straight. Same questions, different angles, an endless loop designed to break her down. "Let's go through it one more time," Agent Reeves said. his voice a monotone that suggested he had all the time in the world. You're telling us you had no knowledge of the cryptocurrency breach that drained $800 million from pension funds, hedge funds, and private investors? For the 1000th time, no. Victoria's voice was hoarse. Someone used Clarion Cloud's infrastructure to access the wallets, but it wasn't me, and it wasn't anyone on my team. Your infrastructure, your security protocols, your oversight, Agent Chen said. She was the bad cop, all sharp edges and accusatory glances. That money disappeared through your system, Miss Clarion. If you didn't take it, who did? That's what I've been trying to tell you. Victoria leaned forward, desperation creeping into her voice. Someone hacked us first. They breached our systems 3 weeks ago. We detected an anomaly in our metaverse integration protocols, but we couldn't trace the source. Metaverse integration? Reeds looked up from his notes. You mean Schols Tech? Victoria nodded. We partnered with Schols for cloud-based metaverse hosting. Dominic, Schols, and I signed the deal 2 months ago. The breach occurred during the integration phase. The agents exchanged glances. You're saying Dominic Schols is responsible? Chen asked. I'm saying the vulnerability came through his system. Whether it was intentional or negligent, I don't know. Reeves stood abruptly. Wait here. They left her alone in the room, and Victoria dropped her head into her hands. The walls were closing in. Her lawyers had promised bail by midnight, but even if she got out, the damage was done. Her company was hemorrhaging value. Her reputation was in tatters, and somewhere out there, the real culprit was laughing. Her mind drifted to Marcus. Had he seen the news? Was he trying to reach her? Or had his father already gotten to him, poisoned him against her? Their relationship had been a secret from the start. Stolen moments between corporate obligations, encrypted messages, private jets to neutral cities where they could pretend, just for a night, that their last names didn't matter. Marcus had promised her he'd stand by her, that when the time came to go public, they'd face their families together. But that was before the world fell apart. The door opened. Agent Reeves returned, but he wasn't alone. Behind him came a woman Victoria recognized from 100 business profiles. Serena Schols, COO of Schols Technologies, Dominic's younger sister, and the real power behind their San Francisco empire. Serena wore a tailored Armani suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her dark hair pulled into a severe bun, her expression unreadable. She looked like she'd stepped out of a boardroom to slum it in the Federal Detention Center. Miss Clarion, Serena said, her voice smooth as aged whiskey. We need to talk. In a private office at Schols Technologies' San Francisco headquarters, Dominic Schols paced like a caged predator. His own lawyers had arrived an hour ago with grim news. The FBI was building a case not just against Victoria Clarion, but against Schols Tech as the potential entry point for the breach. If they could prove negligence, or worse, complicity, both companies would burn. This is Alexander Hammond's work. Dominic said, more to himself than his legal team. Has to be. The timing is too perfect, the narrative too clean. His chief counsel, Gerald Pressman, cleared his throat. Whether it's Hammond or not, we have a serious problem. Our partnership with Clarion Cloud gave us deep access to their infrastructure. If the FBI can trace the hack to our metaverse protocols, they can't, because it didn't originate there. Dominic stopped pacing, his mind racing through technical possibilities. The hack was sophisticated, multi-vector. Whoever did this didn't just breach one system. They breached multiple systems and made it look like a trail from Schols to Clarion. Then we need to find the real source, Pressman said. Fast. Dominic's phone buzzed. A message from Serena. I'm at the detention center, talking to VC now. She has information. He replied, what kind of information? The response came immediately, the kind that changes everything. Hold tight. Dominic dismissed his lawyers and moved to the window. The San Francisco Bay stretched before him, glittering in the afternoon sun. Somewhere out there, someone was playing a game with pieces he couldn't yet see. Hammond was the obvious suspect. But Dominic had learned long ago that the obvious answer was rarely the complete one. His thoughts drifted to Eliza Dustin. He'd met her 6 months ago at a venture capital summit in Zurich. Eliza was heir to the Dustin fortune, media conglomerates that rivaled Hammond's reach, plus a shipping empire that moved 40% of East Coast cargo. She was brilliant, beautiful, and completely off-limits. Not because of business. The Schols and Dustin families had no particular rivalry. No, Eliza was off-limits because she was engaged to Marcus Hammond. That hadn't stopped Dominic from falling for her. And unless he was completely misreading the signals, it hadn't stopped her from falling back. Their affair had been brief, intense, and recently ended. Eliza had called it off 3 weeks ago, guilt-ridden over Marcus, determined to make her arranged marriage work. Dominic had respected her decision, even as it tore him apart. Now, with the Hammond and Clarion empires at war, he wondered if Eliza had known something was coming, if Marcus had confided in her, if she'd ended things to protect herself, or to protect Dominic. His phone rang. Speak of the devil. Eliza. Dominic. Her voice was strained. Are you somewhere private? My office. Why? I need to tell you something, and you can't repeat it. Not to your lawyers, not to your sister, not to anyone. Dominic's pulse quickened. I'm listening. Marcus is in love with Victoria Clarion. They've been seeing each other in secret. Alexander just found out, and Dominic, I think he orchestrated this whole thing. The hack, the arrest, all of it. To separate them, to destroy her. The pieces clicked into place with terrible clarity. Jesus Christ, Dominic breathed. There's more, Eliza continued. Alexander has been stockpiling Hammond Media's cryptocurrency reserves. Billions in Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins. If the market crashes from this scandal, which it will, he can buy up assets at fire sale prices. He's not just destroying Victoria, he's positioning himself to monopolize the entire crypto sector. How do you know this? A pause. Because Marcus told me. Last night, after the gala. He's a wreck, Dominic. He came to me because he didn't know who else to trust. And you're telling me because you're the only one with the technical resources to prove what Alexander did. And because, his voice softened, because I trust you. I shouldn't, but I do. Dominic closed his eyes. The affair was supposed to be over. This phone call was dragging him back in. Eliza, if I go after Alexander Hammond, it becomes a war. Not just between companies, but between families. Your engagement to Marcus is a business arrangement, she said quietly. I thought I could make it work, that I could learn to love him the way he deserves. But I can't stop thinking about you. And Marcus can't stop thinking about Victoria. We're all trapped in the wrong lives, Dominic. Then help me spring the trap. Do you have proof? Anything concrete that ties Alexander to the hack? No, but I know who might. Isaiah Dustin. Dominic's blood ran cold. Isaiah Dustin, Eliza's older brother, notorious for his ruthless business tactics, and his position as CEO of Dustin Media and Logistics. If Isaiah knew about Alexander's scheme, it meant the Dustins were either complicit or planning their own play. Why would Isaiah help us? Dominic asked. He wouldn't, but he might have evidence anyway. My brother collects leverage, like some people collect art. You never know when you'll need it. Eliza's tone hardened. I can get into his files. His home office in the Hamptons. He keeps a private server there, off the corporate network. Eliza, that's breaking and entering. If you get caught, then I get caught, Dominic. Victoria Clarion is about to take the fall for something she didn't do. And the man I'm supposed to marry is being manipulated by a psychopath. I have to do something. The conviction in her voice left no room for argument. Okay, Dominic said, but you don't do this alone. I'm coming to New York. By the time Serena Schols sat down with Victoria Clarion in the interrogation room, she'd already made 3 phone calls that would reshape the landscape of the corporate war. Call 1. To her media contacts, planting seeds of doubt about the official narrative. Call 2. To her best forensic analysts, ordering an immediate deep dive into the hack's true origin point. Call 3. To her brother, confirming he'd gotten Eliza's intel. Now she studied Victoria with clinical interest. The young woman across from her looked exhausted, terrified, but not broken. Not yet. The FBI thinks we're both guilty, Serena said without preamble. You as the thief, me as the accomplice who left the door open. Victoria straightened. I'm not a thief. I know. And my brother's systems didn't have a vulnerability. They were deliberately infiltrated by someone with resources that make our little empires look quaint. Serena leaned forward. Question is, do you want to prove it? Or do you want to roll over and let Alexander Hammond win? How do you know it's Hammond? Because I've been watching him for 3 years, waiting for him to make exactly this kind of move. Alexander doesn't just compete, he eviscerates. And you've been in his crosshairs since you beat his cryptocurrency division to the Asian market last quarter. Victoria's eyes narrowed. If you knew he was a threat, why didn't you warn me? Because until recently, you and I were competitors too. Clarion Cloud and Schols metaverse occupy overlapping territories. But now? Serena smiled grimly. Now we have a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my business partner, temporarily at least. What are you proposing? An alliance, Schols and Clarion, combined resources, combined legal teams, combined technical capabilities. We pool our information, trace the hack to its source, and burn Hammond to the ground. Serena pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. I've already started the preliminary work. This shows the data trail from the breach. Notice anything interesting? Victoria scanned the screen, her exhaustion falling away as her mind engaged with the technical puzzle. The attack vector originated from multiple points simultaneously: Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. Like a coordinated strike. Exactly. But look at the timestamps. Los Angeles initiated 3.7 milliseconds before the others. That's the command source. Hammond Media headquarters is in Los Angeles. In Century City, to be precise. And their building happens to house one of the most advanced cryptocurrency mining operations in North America, ostensibly for their blockchain journalism initiative. But actually, Serena tapped the screen, pulling up electrical consumption data. Their power usage spiked 340% in the week leading up to the hack. They were wanting something big, something that required massive computational power. Victoria's breath caught. A distributed hack. They used their mining infrastructure to coordinate the breach, making it look like it came from multiple sources to cover their tracks. And by routing part of the attack through our partnership integration, they made sure we both take the fall. Serena retrieved the tablet. I can't prove this yet. Not enough to take to the FBI. But if we work together, if we combine what we know with what we can discover, we can prove it. Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in hours. Hope. But I need to get out of here first. My lawyers say bail hearing is at 8. It's at 6 now. I called in a favor. Serena stood. And when you walk out of here, you come straight to San Francisco. We have work to do. The bail hearing was a circus. Outside the courthouse, protesters waved signs denouncing crypto criminals, while a smaller contingent held banners reading Free Victoria. The media presence was overwhelming. Cameras from every major outlet, including, Victoria noted with bitter irony, no fewer than 5 Hammond Media affiliates. Inside, her legal team had assembled an impressive case for bail, community ties, no flight risk, presumption of innocence. The prosecutor argued that Victoria had the means and motive to flee the country, citing her private jet and homes in 3 countries. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Harriet Torres, listened to both sides with a visible impatience. Miss Clarion, she finally said, you are charged with serious federal crimes that, if proven, would result in significant prison time. However, the evidence presented by the government at this stage is largely circumstantial. Bail is set at $50 million, cash or bond. You will surrender your passport and submit to electronic monitoring. You are prohibited from accessing any Clarion Cloud systems or traveling outside the tri-state area without court approval. Victoria sagged with relief as her lawyers nodded. 50 million was steep, but manageable. Then the prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the government requests additional conditions. Given Miss Clarion's personal relationship with Marcus Hammond, son of Alexander Hammond, whose media empire has been covering this case extensively, we believe there's a risk of witness tampering or collusion. Victoria's blood turned to ice. Judge Torres raised an eyebrow. Personal relationship? Explain. The government has evidence that Miss Clarion and Marcus Hammond have been involved romantically for at least 6 months, despite their family's business rivalry. We believe this relationship may be relevant to the case and request that Miss Clarion be prohibited from contact with Marcus Hammond or any member of the Hammond family pending trial. The courtroom erupted. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Victoria's lawyers objected strenuously, but the damage was done. Judge Torres banged her gavel. Order, Miss Clarion, in addition to the previous conditions, you are prohibited from direct or indirect contact with Marcus Hammond or any Hammond family member. Violation of this condition will result in immediate revocation of bail. We're adjourned. Victoria barely heard the rest. Her secret was out. Her relationship with Marcus, the one pure thing in her complicated life, had just been weaponized against her. She turned to her lead attorney. How did they know? I don't know, but we'll find out. Victoria had a sinking suspicion she already knew. Alexander Hammond had fed the information to the prosecution. He'd found out about Marcus and Victoria, and now he was making sure they could never be together. Even if she was eventually exonerated, the relationship would be tainted, impossible to maintain under public scrutiny. It was brilliant, in a sociopathic way. 2 hours later, bail posted and ankle monitor attached. Victoria climbed into a car that Serena Schols had sent. The driver handed her a burner phone with a single contact saved, the firm. She called it. Welcome to the Resistance, Serena answered. How do you feel about San Francisco? Like I don't have a choice. You don't. We have 48 hours before Hammond makes his next move, and we need to be ready. Also, Dominic wants to talk to you about Marcus. Victoria's chest tightened. What about him? Apparently, he's planning something stupid and noble. Dominic thinks we can use it. Marcus Hammond had indeed planned something stupid and noble. He was going to confess, not to a crime. He hadn't committed one, but to the truth, his truth. At 8 p.m., he stood outside the offices of the New York Standard, one of the few major media outlets his father didn't own or control. In his pocket was a USB drive containing 6 months of text messages, emails, and photos documenting his relationship with Victoria. Also on the drive, a signed affidavit stating his belief that his father had orchestrated the hack to destroy the Clarion Empire. He had no proof of the latter. Not yet. But he had his voice, his name, and his willingness to burn his inheritance to ashes if it meant saving the woman he loved. Marcus was reaching for the door when a hand caught his arm. He spun, ready to fight, and found himself face to face with Dominic Schols. We need to talk, Dominic said. Somewhere private. I don't have time for. Your father is about to make a play that will destroy Victoria, my company, and possibly the entire US cryptocurrency market. So yes, Marcus, you have time. They ended up in a coffee shop 3 blocks away, sitting in a back corner where the clatter of espresso machines provided white noise. Dominic laid out everything. The technical evidence of Hammond Media's involvement, the coordinated attack vectors, the suspicious power usage. Then he dropped the final bomb. Eliza told me about you and Victoria. Marcus went rigid. Eliza? You and Eliza? Were involved. Past tense. She ended it 3 weeks ago because she wanted to make her engagement to you work. Dominic's expression was carefully neutral. But now she knows you're in love with someone else, and she's decided to help bring down your father instead. Hell of a woman, your fiancé. Ex-fiancé, Marcus corrected. I called off the engagement this afternoon. Couldn't go through with it, not after. He gestured helplessly. Does Victoria know? About me and Eliza? Does Eliza know about you and Victoria? I never told her. Then you're both idiots. Dominic pulled out his phone, showing Marcus a screen full of data. But you're idiots I need. Eliza is breaking into her brother's files tonight to find evidence against your father. I'm flying to New York to provide technical support, and you're going to help us because you're the only one who might know where your father keeps his operational security protocols. Marcus stared at the phone, his mind reeling. If I do this, if I help you, I lose everything. My inheritance, my trust fund, my name. My father will disown me. Probably. And Victoria will find out I was engaged to someone else while we were together. Almost certainly. But she might also not go to prison for a crime she didn't commit. Definitely. Marcus met Dominic's eyes. The other man's expression held no judgment, no mockery. Just a kind of grim understanding, one player recognizing another across the board. When do we start? Marcus asked. Eliza Dustin's family estate in the Hamptons sprawled across 12 acres of prime beachfront property. The main house was a testament to old money, weathered shingles, white columns, rooms full of antiques that museums would kill for. It was also equipped with security that would make a bank jealous. Eliza bypassed the main system using her family override code, one of the few privileges of being a Dustin that she actually appreciated. She slipped through the kitchen entrance at 11 p.m., moving through familiar hallways toward her brother's study. Isaiah wouldn't be here. He was in Manhattan, probably at some club, making deals or making enemies, or both. But his private server would be here, in the wall safe behind the Rothko painting that he pretended to appreciate for aesthetic reasons, but really just kept for its resale value. Eliza found the study untouched. She moved to the painting, removed it carefully, and confronted the safe's biometric lock. This was the tricky part. She pulled out a small device that Dominic had FedExed to her that afternoon, a biometric spoofer loaded with Isaiah's fingerprint data from a wine glass he'd left at her apartment months ago. She'd kept it, not sure why at the time. Now she knew. Insurance. The device worked. The safe clicked open. Inside were 3 external hard drives, 2 stacks of cash that she ignored, and a small leather journal that she immediately recognized as their father's. She pocketed the journal. That was a complication for another day, and grabbed the hard drives. She was closing the safe when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Eliza froze. The security system hadn't alerted to anyone else entering, which meant either it was malfunctioning or someone else had override codes. Isaiah stepped into the study, still wearing his suit from earlier, a drink in his hand. "Little sister," he said, his voice pleasant in the way that meant he was furious. "Working late?" Eliza's mind raced. She still held the hard drives. No way to hide them. "I could ask you the same thing," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "I thought you were in the city." "I was. Then I got an alert that someone accessed the house using a family code. Yours, specifically." Isaiah moved into the room, closing the door behind him. "I disabled the interior cameras before I came in. Didn't want security seeing whatever conversation we're about to have." "Thoughtful of you." "I try." He sipped his drink, studying her. "You're stealing from me, Eliza. That hurts. We're family." "Are we? Or are we just business associates with shared DNA?" Isaiah laughed. "A distinction without a difference. Now, are you going to tell me what you're looking for, or do I have to guess?" "Wait, let me try. You're working with Dominic Schols. He put you up to this. The two of you are trying to find evidence linking Alexander Hammond to the Clarion hack." Eliza kept her face neutral, but her heart hammered. "What makes you think that?" "Because that's what I would do if I were you. If I'd been sleeping with Dominic and was now engaged to Alexander's son." Isaiah's smile was knife-sharp. "Yes, I knew about the affair. I know everything that happens in this family, including the fact that you just helped my competitors. Then stop me. Why would I do that?" Isaiah set down his drink and moved to his desk, pulling out a flash drive of his own. Alexander Hammond has been a thorn in Dustin Media's side for a decade. If you and your boyfriend want to take him down, I'm happy to provide ammunition. He tossed her the flash drive. Eliza caught it reflexively. What's on this? Complete financial records of Hammond Media's cryptocurrency operations. Bank transfers, wallet addresses, shell corporation structures. Everything you need to prove he's been manipulating the market for 18 months. Isaiah's expression turned serious. But there's a price, little sister. When this is over, when Hammond falls, Dustin Media absorbs his market share. We become the dominant media power on the eastern seaboard, and you help make that happen. You want me to spy on Schols? I want you to remember where your loyalties lie. You're a Dustin. That means something, or at least it should. He gestured to the hard drives in her hands. Take those too. Hell, take whatever you want from that safe. But when the dust settles, you come back to the family business. You marry whoever you want, live wherever you want, but you work for Dustin interests. Deal? Eliza weighed her options. Refuse, and Isaiah would stop her, possibly turn her over to actual authorities. Accept, and she'd be in her brother's debt forever. But if they didn't stop Hammond, none of it would matter anyway. Deal, she said. Isaiah smiled. Smart girl. Now get out of here before I change my mind. And Eliza, he waited until she was at the door. Don't trust Dominic Schols too much. He's playing his own game, and you're not the only piece on his board. 24 hours later, all the players converged in San Francisco. Dominic's private office at Schols Technologies had been transformed into a war room. Monitors covered every wall, displaying data streams, security footage, news feeds. In the center, gathered around a conference table, sat the unlikeliest alliance in corporate history. Victoria Clarion, out on bail, her ankle monitor a constant reminder of her precarious situation. Marcus Hammond, disowned by his father, as of 6 hours ago. Alexander had made the announcement via a scorching press release that made the evening news. Eliza Dustin, carrying her brother's drives and a moral compromise she was still processing. Dominic Schols, coordinating everything with Serena at his side. And one more person, a young woman named Sophia Reyes, whistleblower from inside Hammond Media's IT department, who Serena had convinced to come forward with insider knowledge. Everything we need is in this room, Dominic said, gesturing to the evidence spread before them. Financial records, system logs, witness testimony. We can prove Alexander Hammond orchestrated the hack. We can prove he used his media empire to shape the narrative. We can prove everything. So why do you look worried? Victoria asked. Dominic pulled up a new screen, a live feed of financial markets. Because while we've been gathering evidence, Hammond has been making moves. In the past 24 hours, Hammond Media has acquired controlling shares in 3 major cryptocurrency exchanges, 2 blockchain development firms, and a dozen smaller crypto media outlets. He's not just surviving this scandal, he's using it to consolidate power. Marcus leaned forward, his face pale. He's building a monopoly. He's building an empire, Serena corrected. And if we don't stop him in the next 12 hours, he'll have enough market share to make himself untouchable. The SEC won't go after him if he controls the narrative completely. Then we go public now, Eliza said. Release everything. Let the market decide. If we release without proper legal foundation, he'll sue us into oblivion for defamation, Victoria countered. We need law enforcement on our side first. Sophia Reyes, who'd been quiet until now, cleared her throat. There might be another way. Hammond's cryptocurrency operations run on proprietary software that he personally oversees. If we could access his system, we could find direct evidence of his involvement. Communications, transaction orders, the works. Access his system how? Dominic asked. His security is beatable if you have someone with administrative credentials. Sophia looked at Marcus. You still have your access codes from when you worked in the cryptocurrency division, don't you? Marcus nodded slowly. I should. Dad never revoked them. Probably didn't think I'd be stupid enough to use them against him. But using them would be illegal, Victoria said. Unauthorized access, computer fraud. You could go to prison. I could. Marcus met her eyes across the table. For the first time since their secret had been exposed, they were in the same room, close enough to touch, but separated by the court's prohibition and everything that had happened. But you already might go to prison for something you didn't do. Seems only fair that one of us risks it for something we choose to do. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Eliza broke the tension. If Marcus hacks Hammond's systems, he doesn't do it alone. We all participate. Shared risk, shared responsibility. If we're going down, we go down together. Dominic nodded. Agreed. Besides, once we have the evidence, we'll be heroes, not criminals. Probably. Probably? Sophia laughed, slightly hysterical. You people are either very brave or very stupid. Why not both? Serena said, with a grim smile. Now let's plan a heist. The plan was elegant in its simplicity and terrifying in its execution. Marcus would use his credentials to access Hammond Media's internal network from a remote location. They'd chosen a cafe with public Wi-Fi to make the access point harder to trace. Once in, he'd navigate to his father's private server, download communications and transaction records from the past year, and extract before security protocols detected the breach. They estimated they had 15 minutes before Hammond's IT security would trace the intrusion, maybe 20 if they were lucky. Dominic would provide technical support, running interference software to mask their digital footprint. Victoria would analyze the data in real time, flagging the most damning evidence. Eliza would coordinate with her brother's legal team, without telling Isaiah exactly what they were doing, to prepare an immediate filing with the SEC and FBI. Sophia would be their insider guide, walking them through Hammond's system architecture. And Serena would handle Plan B. If they got caught, she had enough media contacts to ensure their side of the story got out, even if they ended up arrested. Everyone clear? Dominic asked. Nods around the table. Then let's burn this empire down. At 2 a.m., Marcus sat in a cramped Starbucks in the Mission District, his laptop open, his hands shaking slightly as he typed his credentials into Hammond Media's VPN portal. The system accepted his login. I'm in, he said into the earbud connecting him to the team back at Schols Technologies. Copy that, Dominic's voice replied. You should see a directory tree. Navigate to Executive Oversight, then AH Personal. Marcus followed the instructions, his heart pounding. He was betraying his father, his family, everything he'd been raised to honor. But he was also saving Victoria, and maybe that was worth it. The AH Personal folder contained hundreds of subfolders. Marcus clicked on Crypto Ops, his screen filled with files, spreadsheets, encrypted communications, transaction logs, all time-stamped over the past 18 months. Jesus, Marcus breathed. He's been planning this for over a year. Download everything. Victoria's voice now, tight with controlled excitement. We'll sort through it later. Marcus initiated the bulk download. A progress bar appeared. 14 minutes remaining. We have a problem, Dominic said. Security protocols just activated. They know someone's accessing the system. How much time do we have? 10 minutes, maybe less. Marcus watched the progress bar crawl forward. 8 minutes downloaded. 6 minutes until security traced the breach. Come on, he muttered. His laptop screen flickered. A message appeared. Unauthorized access detected. System lockdown in 300 seconds. They're locking me out, Marcus said. Override protocol Alpha 7. Sophia's voice cut in. Type it into the command prompt. It'll buy you another 3 minutes. Marcus's fingers flew across the keyboard, entering the command. The lockdown timer reset. 12 minutes downloaded. Progress bar at 89%. Almost there, Victoria said. Marcus, you're doing great. He wanted to respond, to say all the things he'd been holding back since the courthouse, but there was no time. The download hit 97%, 98%. Another security message, location triangulated, authorities notified. They called the cops, Marcus said, his voice surprisingly calm. How long do I have? 5 minutes until SFPD arrives at your location, Serena said. Can you move? Not without interrupting the download. 99%. The progress bar filled completely. Got it. Marcus yanked the USB drive from his laptop and ran. He burst out of the cafe just as police sirens wailed in the distance. The rendezvous point was 3 blocks away, an alley behind a Chinese restaurant where Dominic was waiting in a car. Marcus ran like his life depended on it, because in a way, it did. He rounded the corner into the alley and saw the car, a nondescript sedan with tinted windows. The back door flew open. "Get in," Dominic shouted. Marcus dove inside. The car accelerated before he'd even closed the door. "Did you get it?" Victoria asked from the passenger seat. Marcus held up the USB drive, grinning despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. Every file, every transaction, every smoking gun. In the driver's seat, Dominic exhaled. "Ben, we've got him." The next 6 hours were a blur of analysis, legal preparation, and strategic leaks. Victoria and Dominic tore through the files Marcus had stolen, building a timeline of Alexander Hammond's scheme. It was more elaborate than they'd imagined. Hammond had spent 18 months positioning himself to both cause and profit from a cryptocurrency crash. He'd shorted markets while simultaneously buying infrastructure. He'd planted malware in competing systems through a series of shell companies. He'd even manipulated media coverage of blockchain technology to drive public sentiment exactly where he needed it. The hack of Clarion Cloud was just the flashpoint, the match that lit a fire Hammond had spent a year building. At dawn, they had their evidence package ready. 1,000 pages of documentation, forensic analysis, witness statements, and financial records that painted an irrefutable picture. Eliza made the first call to her brother's legal team, then to the SEC's enforcement division, then to the FBI's white-collar crimes unit. Serena made the second wave of calls to journalists at the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and Financial Times, media outlets that Hammond didn't control. By 7 a.m., the story was breaking. By 8 a.m., trading of Hammond media stock was halted, pending investigation. By 9 a.m., federal agents were executing search warrants at Hammond media offices in Los Angeles, New York, and Washington, D.C. And at 10 a.m. Pacific time, sitting in his Century City office with FBI agents at his door, Alexander Hammond made one final call to his son. Marcus, who hadn't slept in 36 hours, answered. "You've destroyed everything I built," Alexander said without preamble. "No, Dad. I stopped you from destroying everything everyone else built." Marcus's voice was hoarse but steady. "You taught me that power is everything. But you forgot to teach me that some things matter more. Like that Clarion girl. Like integrity." Alexander laughed bitterly. "Integrity doesn't pay dividends, Marcus. You'll learn that when you're bankrupt and forgotten. Maybe, but at least I'll be able to sleep at night." Marcus hung up. In the war room at Schols Technologies, the unlikely alliance sat in exhausted silence, watching news coverage of Alexander Hammond's perp walk. "We did it," Sophia said, almost disbelieving. "We actually did it." "We did," Dominic confirmed. "But this isn't over. Hammond has lawyers, money, connections. He'll fight this for years." "Let him fight," Victoria said. "We have the truth. That's enough." She looked at Marcus sitting across the table, close enough to touch now that the court's prohibition had been lifted. The FBI had dropped charges against Victoria that morning once they'd reviewed the evidence. "Is it?" she asked quietly. "Enough?" Marcus understood she wasn't talking about the case. "I don't know," he admitted. "I lied to you. By omission, maybe, but still. I was engaged to someone else while we were together. And I dragged you into a war that cost you your family," Victoria replied. "I never told you how bad things with your father really were. I wanted to keep you separate from all the ugliness." "We're both idiots," Marcus said with a tired smile. "Absolutely," Eliza interjected. She'd been quiet most of the morning, processing everything. "But if it helps, I was also engaged to Marcus while sleeping with Dominic. So we're all terrible people." Dominic choked on his coffee. "Way to lay it all out there. I'm too tired for subtlety." Eliza stood, moving to the window. "Marcus, I don't know if you and Victoria can make it work. That's between you two. But I know I can't marry you. I called off the engagement officially this morning." Marcus nodded. I know. My phone has about 100 missed calls from your mother. She'll get over it, or she won't. Either way, I'm done living my life for other people's business interests. Eliza turned to Dominic. Which brings me to you. Dominic looked up wary. Me? I made a deal with my brother. I help him absorb Hammond's market share when this is over, and I maintain family loyalty to Dustin interests. She paused. But Isaiah was right about one thing. You are playing your own game. This whole operation, bringing us all together, it wasn't just about justice, was it? It was about eliminating Hammond as a competitor and positioning Schols Technologies as the dominant force in both cryptocurrency and media. The room went very quiet. Dominic met her gaze steadily. You're not wrong. Hammond was a threat to my company, and I used this situation to neutralize that threat. But that doesn't mean I didn't also want to help Victoria, or that what we had wasn't real. Had, Eliza repeated, past tense. Is that what you want? Past tense. I don't know what I want, except to not be a chess piece anymore. She grabbed her bag. I need to go deal with my family and figure out who I am outside of alliances and arrangements. She left without looking back. Serena broke the silence. Well, that was dramatic. Anyone else want to make life-altering declarations? No? Good, because I have a company to run, and we're all out of coffee. She swept out, leaving the others to pick up the pieces. 3 days later, the full scope of Alexander Hammond's operation had been revealed to the public. The market implications were staggering. Cryptocurrency valuations had stabilized once confidence was restored, but the media landscape was in chaos. Hammond Media was in receivership, its assets being liquidated to pay fines and restitution. As Isaiah had planned, Dustin Media was positioned to acquire many of those assets. But Schols Technologies and Clarion Cloud had also emerged stronger. Their partnership now formalized beyond just technical integration. In a press conference, Victoria and Dominic announced a new joint venture, a blockchain-based media platform that would prioritize transparency and decentralization. It was ambitious, possibly impossible, but after everything they'd survived, impossible felt manageable. Marcus didn't attend the press conference. He was in Los Angeles, at his mother's house, trying to figure out what came next for a Hammond who'd burned his Hammondness to the ground. Victoria found him there 3 days after the press conference, standing on the beach behind the Malibu estate his mother had gotten in the divorce. Your security is terrible, she said by way of greeting. I walked right through the gate. Marcus turned, and despite everything, his face lit up. My security is probably still loyal to my father. I'm basically homeless at this point. Poor little rich boy. But Victoria's tone was gentle as she joined him at the water's edge. How are you holding up? I have no job, no inheritance, and a reputation as the guy who destroyed his own father. So basically, great. He paused. I heard about your new venture with Schols. Congratulations. Thank you. We're calling it Veritas Chain. Probably too on the nose. Probably. Marcus kicked at the sand. Victoria, I don't know what we are anymore, or if we're anything, but I want you to know that I don't regret what I did. Even if we don't end up together, you were worth it. Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. That might be the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me, which is sad, really. I should aim higher. You should. But for now, she took his hand. For now, maybe we just figure it out one day at a time. No secrets, no corporate strategies, just two people trying to be honest with each other. I think I can manage that. They stood there as the sun set over the Pacific, two survivors of a corporate war that had cost them almost everything and given them a chance at something real. In San Francisco, Dominic Schols sat alone in his office, watching the sunset through floor-to-ceiling windows. The victory felt hollow. He'd won the corporate war, but lost Eliza in the process. His phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Some of us are trying to rebuild our lives. Despite everything, Dominic smiled. There would be other battles, other complications. Isaiah Dustin was already maneuvering to dominate the new media landscape. Serena was planning aggressive expansion into metaverse infrastructure. Victoria and Marcus were navigating the minefield of a public relationship under intense scrutiny. But for now, in this moment, they'd won something important: the truth. And in the ruthless world of corporate empires, sometimes that was enough. End of part 3.
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.